Once Upon a Time in the West was essentially Sergio Leone's homage to all the westerns he loved and is a cinematic masterpiece. You see so many parallels between this and especially High Noon and Johnny Guitar, as well as other notable westerns. There are also many influences from directors such as John Ford in the use of Monument Valley, Akira Kurosawa, and Edward Dmytryk. It's also one of the very few westerns that's also an art film. He had finished his Western trilogy of A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and he wanted to work on his next film, Once Upon a Time in America. The backers, however, wouldn't let him. As Sergio Leone put it, people will forgive your failures, but not your successes. So he had to make another Western because his trilogy was hugely successful. He then decided to make another trilogy consisting of Once Upon a Time in the West, Duck You Sucker, and ending with Once Upon a Time in America, depicting various times in American history as he visualized them. When this movie was released in the US, it all but flopped at the box office. It was too long for people's taste, there was a lot of waiting in this movie, a lot of unspoken communication. You really have to watch to see the subtle body language of the characters in the film. In the initial American release, as well as other nations, several scenes were even cut out, and today some sequences are lost with only stills left in existence. It wasn't until years later when the film gained more and more momentum and respect, and people started seeing it for the masterpiece it truly is. Many even describe this as an opera because of its style. It's a long movie though, running around 3 hours, but in the extremely detailed script there are only a total of 15 pages of dialogue. The casting of this was great because you have so many actors who are playing opposite their normal roles. In the opening scene, you have Woody Strode, who always played good guys like Sergeant Rutledge, and he's a sawed-off shotgun-toting bad guy in this. The most shocking of the casting of all is Henry Fonda, who is actually reluctant to take this role because of the character, and it's so incredibly evil. The first 20 minutes of the movie, before you even know who is who and are introduced to the other protagonists, you see the massacre of an entire family setting up a picnic, and then the camera pans around, and you're just shocked and think, holy crap, it's Henry Fonda! And he shoots a child. Henry Fonda was the American good guy, young Mr. Lincoln, Wyatt Earp, Tom Joad in Grapes of Wrath, and here he was playing one of the most despicable characters in a movie. You also have the beautiful Claudia Cardinale as Jill McBain, who is a prostitute that became the new wife, now widow, of the murdered man. Jason Robards, who plays the out, never really be brought to justice because he's always able to escape via horse and gun. Also Gabriele Ferzetti, who is basically the Laurence Olivier of Italian cinema, playing a detestable crippled man who bought power and fear even though he was essentially confined to a cage dressed as a train car. And then there's the amazing Charles Bronson, who plays the character known only as Harmonica due to his haunting playing of the instrument. You don't really know if he's good or bad until the middle of this. There aren't really any heroes in this movie, more of anti-heroes. You have the themes of water and death in connection to the railroad throughout the story, with Claudia Cardinale's character being closely related with water, just like she was in Federico Fellini's 8½. The movie really revolves around her, as she represents the nurturer mother figure, the whore, and also the railroad. In Leone's other films, women were basically background decoration. This movie was showing the end of the West and that kind of life with the coming of the railroad, and this piece of film work also represents the end of the Western as a genre because it was basically dying out. This film is truly a masterpiece. Everything from the editing, the types of shots used such as tracking shots, crane shots, and extreme close-ups. Also the sets created by Carlo Simi. The Flagstaff set, which we see for a hot minute alone, cost more than the entire budget of Fistful of Dollars. By Ennio Morricone. This is possibly one of the greatest soundtracks to have ever been written. It was actually written before any shooting was done, and some of the script was rewritten to match it, and during the filming the scores played during all of it, since most Italian cinema is post-synced in the studio anyway. So if you've ever wondered why some films have horrible synchronization with sound, that's why. In some scenes with horses, you'll even notice that they're running in time with the music. Other protagonists have their own themes, and you may recognize the beautiful voice of Eda Doroso, who also sings many of the Morricone pieces. This film is so incredibly amazing. Not only are the story, acting, and soundtrack great, but the plot itself is a captivating mystery. You don't find out until the very last moments what the personal vendetta is about. If you like westerns, you have to see this. If you like art films, see this. If you enjoy beyond great music and editing, watch this. It's very long, so keep that in mind, and it's also slow moving, but so worth the wait. So I definitely hope you check out this movie, Once Upon a Time in the West, and I will see you next week. Bye.